Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prime Minister's Questions and the Spending Review. Here we'll be covering both of them. The Spending Review will take place after Prime Minister's Questions, just for reference. So Prime Minister's Questions should be no more than half an hour is what was on the schedule, just for reference, guys. So this is Prime Minister's Questions and Spending Review on the 11th of June 2025 at 12 p.m. UK time. We are dual streaming live on youtube.com/Reganelite and on twitch.tv/Reganelite1. If you're on Twitch, make sure you hit that follow button and bell notification icon so you'll be notified when I go live. If you're on YouTube, please hit that like button, share this across social media. If you're not subscribed already, please consider subscribing to support the channel. It'll be starting in just a moment. They're just finishing up the last bits, guys. So we will jump straight into Prime Minister's Questions as soon as permissible. Just a quick reminder as well before that well, we just get this set up. I've just got the video on mute. Just a quick reminder, I'll be live streaming again tonight at 8 p.m. We'll be looking at some of the fallout from the spending review, as well as what's been happening over in America and other places as well, guys. So if you want to join me for the Snowflake Watch tonight at 8 p.m., feel free to join me for that. It'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you to everyone who's here already. Aki's Mad, good to see you, buddy, and anybody else lurking in the chats as well. Just also as well, I may pause. We won't always be live. There will be bits where I will pause through the duration as well, just for reference, guys. As I just want to point out as well. Apparently, there's one more question before we actually switch to PMQs, but I'll switch it over now for you guys. But yeah, the spending review will definitely be some food for thought there. That is for sure, guys. Yeah, PMQs is probably going to be a bit short. It's going to be short. Like I said, it's only going to be half an hour long. So not going to get many questions to the Prime Minister on that. But it'll be interesting to see I'm not sure how Kemi's going to perform this work. She ended the Prime Minister's questions, I thought, a lot better than some of her previous ones. So it'll be interesting to see how she does in this performance here in the upcoming spending review.
Questions, can I welcome in the gallery the President and the delegation of the French National Assembly, and also the knighthood to Sir Billy Boston. Anne Davies, Prime Minister's questions.
Question 1, please.
Mr. Speaker, can I first wish you a happy birthday for yesterday? Say that we're all delighted that Sir Billy Boston, a great British sporting icon, has received his richly deserved knighthood. Long overdue, if I may say, for him, but also for rugby league. Mr. Speaker, it's Carers Week, and I know the whole House will join me in celebrating the selfless dedication of our unpaid and young carers. This weekend also marks the 8th anniversary of the Grenfell Tower fire. We will honour the 72 men, women and children who lost their lives by delivering meaningful and lasting change, a country with safe and secure homes for everyone, and where justice is done for the Grenfell community.
Let's point out, the cladding has still not been resolved in many, many high-rise buildings across the UK. Just putting that out there.
Mr. Speaker, acting alongside our allies, we've sanctioned individuals responsible for inciting appalling settler violence and expansion. We've done that to uphold human rights and defend the prospect of a two-state solution.
Yeah, but we can't. But obviously, we can't criticise Israel, guys. We can't do that. That would be too much.
We will continue to support all efforts to secure a ceasefire, the release of all hostages despicably held by Hamas, and the humanitarian aid that needs to surge in. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Davies.
Diolch, Mr Llefarydd. My constituent, Mr Michael O'Leary, was brutally murdered 5 years ago and his body was desecrated. Working alongside the honourable members for York Outer and Montgomeryshire and Glyndŵr, I've made a number of requests to discuss his and other victims' cases with ministers and to explore introducing legislation making the desecration of a body a criminal offence. Would the Prime Minister meet with Mr O'Leary's family, along with other victims' families, including April Jones of Machynlleth and Sarah Everett and Helen McCourt, to hear why they are calling for a new criminal offence of desecrating a body to be introduced.
Well, can I thank her for raising this horrific case and the other similar cases, and my thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House, are with Michael's family and all those affected by such vile crimes. I think we all need to listen to what they have to say. I know she's been working with the Honourable Friend for York Outer on this issue, and I pay tribute to her and all of those that are working so hard on this issue, and I'm sure the Justice Minister will be in touch at the first opportunity to take this forward, and I thank her again for raising a really important issue.
Simon Offer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, in Gloucestershire, after 14 years, waiting lists for both physical and mental health are finally falling.
Good.
So last week I hosted a round table with young people and heard how music and arts programmes like the fantastic Gloucestershire Music Works are transforming mental health outcomes. I also chaired a panel on comedy on prescription in South by Southwest with Lou Jackson and Jonathan Pye, utilising laughter to improve well-being and reduce waiting lists. So can I ask the Prime Minister to back our campaign in creative health and urge him to go further in reducing waiting lists for all patients? Thank you.
Can I comment? He's got great expertise. He's worked for many years in the NHS as a GP, and I support the work that he's doing. Our plan for change has cut waiting lists, as he points out, by almost 5,000 in his local trust, and we're going further, including through state-of-the-art radiotherapy machines rolled out across the country, Mr. Speaker. There's one going into his constituency, more scanners going to 27 other hospital trusts, including 2 hospitals in the constituency of the Leader of the Opposition. All made possible by the decisions that we've made, and I know she'll want to stand up and welcome that.
Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Bernal.
Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Prime Minister knows something I don't know. There's only one hospital in my constituency. But Mr. Speaker, since... Mr. Speaker, since Labour took office, Mr. Speaker, inflation has nearly doubled, growth has halved, and unemployment has surged. Is this what the Prime Minister meant when he tweeted that the economy is improving?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, since the general election, 500,000 more people are in work. And I know she doesn't mention that. She's fixated on talking Britain down. We're investing in the future. Mr. Speaker, even in the last 2 weeks, the Strategic Defence Review, 30,000 new jobs building submarines. Yesterday, the Sizewell announcement, 10,000 new jobs. Tens of thousands of construction jobs building the social and affordable housing that was announced this morning. That's the difference that Labour makes in government.
Mr. Speaker, he must be talking about a different economy. All of us in this House heard about unemployment increasing. Unemployment has increased every month since Labour took office. Last year, he said he was taking the winter fuel payment away to balance the books. But the books are not balanced. In fact, they are worse. This year, the deficit is forecast to be £10 billion higher since the budget. Not since last year's election, since the budget. In what way are the books now balanced?
Mr. Speaker, she's obviously missed the interest rate cuts, the growth figures for earlier this year, the huge, the Strategic Defence Review, local transport, £15 billion going in, free school meals, Sizewell, social housing. Mr. Speaker, but she stands there to lecture us, and I say Liz Truss is obviously back in vogue, advising reform officially now, haunting the Tories, and I remind her that the Shadow Home Secretary, I think he was then Chief Secretary to the Treasury, he gave the Liz Truss budget, Mr. Speaker, 9.5 out of 10. The Leader of the Opposition said what was wrong with Liz Truss's budget was not necessarily the package, that was all right, it was the way it was sold. They've learned absolutely nothing.
God, I love those little jabs every now and then, guys.
Mr. Speaker, he loves talking about Liz Truss because he loves talking about Liz Truss.
Yeah, because guess what? You were in the same part. You're in the same party as her, and you can't deny the damage she done.
Why? Why? Because he wants to hide from his own economic record. He's a coward. He's a coward. Every time he stands up there and talks about Liz Truss, it's because he is scared about talking about his record and what is happening to the economy out there.
What about the record of 14 years of Conservative? I know you can make the case against Labour, even though they haven't even had a full year in power yet, which is, I can get the criticism, but we're talking about, the mess that they've been left with has been by your party. Just saying.
Let's bring it back to the U-turn, which he's running away from. A U-turn on a policy that his MPs went out defending time and time again. Let's go through what's happening here. 1 minute, they said it was right to take the winter fuel payment away, that there might be a run on the pound. The next minute, they said it was right to give it back. This is laughable. He stands there all puffed up and self-righteous. Why can't the Prime Minister just admit that he made a mistake?
If any party can talk about mistakes, it's yours. I'm sorry, guys. I have to laugh here. It's just bonkers that a party, that the Conservative Party, yes, of course, Labour should apologise for this, for implementing what they did at the budget and U-turning on the winter fuel payment. I agree. But we're talking about the Conservatives here who don't have the word sorry in their vocabulary. It's just nonsense to hear this from Kemi. I'm sorry. It really, really is.
Mr. Speaker, they left a £22 billion black hole that we had to fill. And that's why we took the right decisions. We've stabilised the economy. That's why we've seen 4 interest rate cuts. The triple lock is committed to on this side. They say it's unsustainable on that side. That's £470 for most pensioners and good Q1 growth. 3 weeks ago, I said that I wanted more pensioners to be eligible for winter fuel. I'm really pleased we set out the threshold and the certainty that is needed. And she says I don't want to talk about my record. What about 3 trade deals, record investment, free school meals, breakfast clubs, social and affordable housing, defence review, Sizewell? We could go on all morning, Mr. Speaker, but we've got the Chancellor who's going to say even more in a minute. Mr. Speaker, I think she at the weekend said that she would be getting better in the role. She could start with apologising for the Liz Truss budget. That would be better.
I agree.
Mr. Speaker, I get better every week. He gets worse. Yes, he gets worse. Last week, Mr. Speaker.
If you think that is a good look, it is a very bad look. And think twice before you try to shout somebody down in that way.
Mr. Speaker, last week he had to get his lines from the Russian embassy. I think we all know that he is getting worse, and what he does not want to talk about is how he is going to make the economy better.
Russian embassy. Well, it's not my fault, that the Russian embassy decided to take what you said first. Just saying.
That is what the people out there want to hear, and he's got no answers. His trade deals have unravelled. The Strategic Defence Review, everyone out there is asking where is the money coming from, and the fact is he doesn't know how to balance the books. The Chancellor says the winter fuel payment U-turn won't be funded through higher borrowing. So will the Prime Minister admit that it will be funded by putting everybody's taxes up?
Well, his answer is obviously going to be wait for the spending review.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I think she let slip on the Matt Ford programme the other day that she rehearses her fury for PMQs. So a very good rehearsal this morning, I think. Mr. Speaker, she asked what we're doing. At the budget, we put record investment in our NHS and our public service. Record investment. And she comes every week to carp on about national insurance, but she doesn't stand there with the courage of her convictions and say she'll actually reverse it. And the reason she won't, because she won't stand up and say she's against the investment in the NHS. She won't stand up and say she's against the investment in our public services. And we'll all listen very carefully in just 20 minutes when the Chancellor lays out more record investment as to whether they welcome it or whether they say they wouldn't support it.
Mr. Speaker, every week I come here to tell him the truth. The truth that the economy is in a spiral because Labour, that's all of them, Labour put up taxes that cut growth, and we all heard the Prime Minister, he didn't rule out tax rises, so they are going to have to put up taxes even more. This is a spiral. And if that wasn't bad enough, Mr. Speaker, if that wasn't bad enough, this morning we heard that because of his terrible Chagos deal, Mauritius is scrapping income tax. Why on earth should the British taxpayer pay for £30 billion for tax cuts in Mauritius?
As far as the Chagos Islands deal, and I've said this morning, I've said this now, the islands do not belong to us. We are legally required to give them back under international law. The court hearing had said so. We just need to accept it and move on. I'm sorry about the money being given to them, but hey, you have to pay our fair share, because guess what? We kicked them out of their lands, their homes, their people. Let's be absolutely clear about this, and they demand compensation for that. We can't give them back their time, or we can't give them back what they had before, but we can at least compensate for them, and rightfully so. We should compensate, for them.
Mr. Speaker, Diego Garcia is a vital intelligence and strategic capability, and it's absolutely clear that legal uncertainty would compromise it in very short order. That is why they started the negotiations in relation to it. And no responsible Prime Minister would let that happen. We've secured the base for the long time. That has been welcomed by our allies, by the US, by NATO, by Australia, New Zealand, India. It's been opposed by our adversaries, Russia, China and Iran. And in the second column, we add reform, following Putin, and the Tories following reform.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows this has nothing to do with national security, but his bad negotiating. I've had the security briefings. It was a bad deal before, and it's still a bad deal. And then in half an hour, the Chancellor is going to stand up and tell us that everything is fine. But the truth is, she has made bad choices. Bad choices that mean higher inflation, bad choices that have led to lower growth, bad choices that have meant that jobs have been lost every single month since Labour came into office. That's hundreds of thousands of families who've lost their income in Stoke, in Grangemouth, in Luton. Those are their constituencies, businesses across the country. The Chancellor has lost all her headroom. She's fallen out with the Cabinet. She's making unfunded spending commitments, which she promised not to do. Isn't the truth that we have got the wrong Chancellor and the wrong priorities?
That's a very good that was very good from Kemi there, I have to admit, guys. That was pretty powerful. Some of it I will not agree with, but it definitely was quite a striking attack there from her.
The wrong choice they made was making her leader of the opposition.
Richard Bergen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and belated birthday greetings to you. Mr. Speaker, it's wrong for any Labour government. No Labour government should ever try to balance the books on the backs of disabled people. Yet in just a few weeks' time, that is what the Prime Minister will ask this House to do. Many of us will not be able to go along with that, because it will mean that people who need assistance to cut up their food, to wash themselves, to dress themselves and to go to the toilet will lose the PIP they currently get. That's vital support. This week, the Prime Minister changed direction on winter fuel payments. Will he do the same in relation to this and now drop these disability benefit cuts?
Well said, well said.
Mr. Speaker, it's very important we make the changes to our welfare system. It's not working. It needs reform. I think everybody agrees with that. It doesn't work for anyone. We will do so on a principled basis that those who can work should work. Those that want to work should be supported to do so, and that we must protect those with the most severe disabilities who will never be able to work. And we're doing that by ending reassessments and paying a new premium.
That doesn't address the issue of the fact that you're changing the PIP system, so it's going to be even more difficult for being able to claim entitlements that they are entitled to. Richard is one of the good. He's one of the very good ones in that Labour side. He is.
The Liberal Democrats, Sir Ed Davey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join others in wishing you belated happy returns for yesterday? And can I welcome the government's sanctions of ministers in the Netanyahu government, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich? The violence they've incited, the settler violence they've incited against innocent Palestinians on the West Bank is intolerable, and the government will right to act. And as it's Carers Week, Mr. Speaker, can I pay tribute to the millions of unpaid family carers across the country and recognise the challenges that they face? Mr. Speaker, the last Conservative government left our health service on its knees. We've heard reports that the NHS will get extra funding in the spending review. If it does, we will support that. But does the Prime Minister agree that no amount of money for the NHS will solve its crisis unless we also invest to fix care? So without preempting the Chancellor's statement, will the Prime Minister reassure me that both social care and family carers will get the priority they deserve in the spending review?
Can I agree with him that the health crisis created by the previous government cannot be solved? They groan. That is exactly how the country feels about the last 14 years and the mess they made of everything. Yes, we do need to fix social care alongside the money that we're putting into the NHS. We're putting record amounts into the NHS. That's the right thing to do, and we're seeing the results. We promised 2 million extra appointments in the first year, of the Labour government. We've delivered 3 million, so there will be that extra funding. I would gently say to him, whilst he welcomes all the extra funding, he can't also at the same time simply say he's against any way of raising the money for the funding. There's an incompatibility there.
Sir Ed Davey.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister knows you've got a fairer and better way of funding NHS investment, and I regret the fact that he didn't answer my question on care. But, Mr. Speaker, moving on, the Prime Minister is right to increase defence spending, and later we'll hear the difficult choices the Chancellor has had to make, partly to fund that defence expenditure. But there are £25 billion of frozen Russian assets in the UK right now. Billions that could be used to stop Putin's war machine and to boost Britain's defence industry even faster. So at the G7 this weekend, will the Prime Minister try to seek an agreement to seize those frozen Russian state assets and use them to support Ukraine?
He's already answered this question, and for those who didn't hear the question last, this question was asked to Keir Starmer before, and it's not. And unfortunately, the answer is it's complicated. It is not a simple case of just unlocking it because there are complications to getting that funding. Yes, it's easy for us all to say, let's get these Russian assets and let's take all the money from there. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. It really is not, and this has been explained already.
As he knows, that is an issue that's being considered, but it is complicated, and there are a lot of countervailing factors that need to be carefully balanced in a decision that can be made. We are talking to allies about it, but I don't want to pretend to the House that there's an easy answer on this, because there isn't.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. More jobs, cheaper bills. That was our promise on net zero. If we can't meet those.
By the way, our bills have gone up, by the way, mate, so that's a pretty dead duck here to start with a comment like that.
If we can't meet those goals, then we must consider our approach. In Pembrokeshire, we have a proud industrial history rooted in oil and gas, and an incredibly exciting opportunity in floating offshore wind in the Celtic Sea. So can the Prime Minister assure me that he is committed to a just transition that protects and creates jobs?
I thank him for raising this. I believe this government must seize the opportunities of net zero for working people, creating good skilled jobs, taking them off the roller coaster of volatile fossil fuel markets. Under past governments, Mr. Speaker, hard-working communities had their pride and their jobs ripped away, and we will never do that in relation to a transition. We've already seen £40 billion of investment in energy and renewables, and the CBI shows that 38,000 jobs in Wales are linked to clean energy. I want to see more of that. Both of them are against it.
Saoirse Eastwood.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, I just want to pay tribute to the Police Service of Northern Ireland briefly for tackling public order in Northern Ireland over the last 2 nights with over 30 police officers injured. I'm sure the whole House would want to join with me in that and also condemning the racist violence. Mr. Speaker, whether it's the cardiac scandal at the RVH in Belfast, the cervical smear scandal in the Southern Trust, the COVID-bereaved families, or the crash of Chinook Zulu Delta 576, all of which has impacted my constituents in Lagan Valley. The common thread here is that families simply wanted the truth, but they were let down by institutions at every cut and turn. Will this government urgently introduce a duty of candour bill and ensure that it reflects what the Hillsborough Law Now campaigners and families have fought so very hard for?
Can I start with the important point she makes about Ballymena? And I utterly condemn the violence that we've seen overnight in Ballymena and in other parts of Northern Ireland, including against PSNI officers. It is absolutely vital that the PSNI are given the time they need to investigate the incidents concerned, rather than face mindless attacks as they seek to bring peace and order to keep people safe. And the Northern Ireland Secretary is in touch with the PSNI and the Executive, and I'm being kept updated in relation to that. In relation to the tragic cases that she raises, firstly, I thank her for raising them, and it is important that we have a legal duty of candour. We will be introducing that because, as she says, there must be the truth here based on all people being dealt with on the basis of dignity, fairness and accountability. Thank you.
That was a very good answer from the Prime Minister on the situation.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the words of the former Israeli Prime Minister, what we are witnessing in Gaza is indiscriminate, limitless, cruel and criminal killing of civilians. More than 50,000 people have been killed. Children have been shot while queuing for bread. A growing number of genocide scholars, including leading Israeli academics, believe that a genocide is taking place. Under international law, we have a duty to prevent genocide. I served on the UN mission in Kosovo. We acted to stop mass killing there. What is the difference now? Will the Prime Minister please intervene immediately to alleviate human suffering and take steps to recognise the state of Palestine?
We know exactly what the Prime Minister is going to say here. He's not going to condemn Israel. He's not going to attack them. He's going to say that we're doing everything we can to open up the borders, open everything we can to help them. You're going to get the usual speech from Keir Starmer, unfortunately, on this. This government is not doing enough. I've said this enough times. It's good that there are a consensus growing within Parliament from all political parties about how concerned they are about what's happening. But I feel like it's getting too little too late. Every single day that passes, another child dies. Literally another child dies.
Mr. Speaker, she'll have seen the statement we made yesterday and the actions that we're taking with allies. The humanitarian situation is dreadful and distressing, and scenes that we've witnessed outside aid distribution centres are frankly heartbreaking.
Yeah, so why don't you criticise the IDF for shooting innocent Palestinians trying to get aid?
More aid is needed at volume and speed into Gaza, and Israel's plan for aid delivery is inadequate and insufficient. What is needed is for the UN and other agencies to deliver that aid according to well-established mechanisms, and Israel must allow this. Mr. Speaker, we are working with allies to do all that we can to make this happen, as well, of course, to get the hostages out who have been held for a very long time and a desperately needed return to a ceasefire.
Alex Easton.
I think the fact that he mentioned that is a tiniest bit of criticism is an improvement, but nowhere near enough.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, there are significant concerns regarding the potential job losses at Spirit Aerosystems stemming from the deal with Airbus. Would the Prime Minister agree with me and intervene to bring all the main players, including the unions, the Business Secretary and the Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, around the table to ensure these jobs are protected, especially considering the scale of the issues akin to the challenges faced by British Steel? And also, there is an issue for Northern Ireland businesses with the outworkings of the Northern Ireland Protocol and the Windsor Framework. Can the Prime Minister give me reassurances that he's working to resolve all those issues?
Well, I'm grateful to him for raising this important case of Spirit Aerosystems in Northern Ireland. I know how important it is for the workforce. I've visited them myself on more than one occasion. Airbus's decision to expand UK operations is good news for the sector and testament to world-class manufacturing expertise, and I want to see those high-skilled jobs protected. The Northern Ireland Secretary has met Airbus, the trade unions and assembly representatives to discuss the best outcome. The Minister of Industry is continuing engagement with stakeholders, and we will do everything we can in relation to this situation. I'm grateful to him for raising it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the Prime Minister join me in condemning decisions taken by the Transport Minister of the previous government, who turned their back on promises to deliver a new train station at Bean Park, which derailed growth in my constituency of Dagenham and Rainham? And will he also agree that the Grampian condition on the Bean Park development must be honoured and that infrastructure must accompany all developments of scale as we get on with the job of delivering millions of new homes?
Well, I know she's been fighting hard for this project for years, and she's right, the previous government failed to deliver. You could say that about anything they touch, Mr. Speaker. But the Rail Minister is working with the Mayor and Housing Minister to get an appropriate solution to unlock housing in the area. Mr. Speaker, we'll also bring C2C back into public ownership, improving reliability and performance and ensuring every penny is focused on better service. I imagine when I said disaster is referring to the last government.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've spoken with parents with children with special educational needs and disabilities, but aren't getting the support they need in school. However, if as a result their child is out of school, they're left facing prosecution, fines or even prison time. Punishing parents for the failings of a broken system is outrageous. So will the Prime Minister end this by backing Lord's Amendment 349A to the Children's Wellbeing and School Bill, and will he meet with me to discuss this further?
Well
said. Can I thank you for raising this? The epidemic of absence in our schools is something that really does worry me and concern me. Thanks to the efforts of schools and parents across the country, we've seen over 3 million more days in school this year compared to last, which is really important. But we do know that pupils with special educational needs face more complex barriers in relation to school attendance. Look, we will, of course, look at all amendments in the usual way, but in this instance, I do think we struck the right balance.
Chris Webb.
Well, obviously, he's wrong then, because obviously the parents must be wrong in all of this, and what she said was false. What do you honestly think?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I start by congratulating Sir Billy Boston. Billy ended his career playing at Blackpool, and I know this has been a long campaign by the Culture Secretary, the Speaker, the Honourable Member for Makerfield, and many in this House, so congratulations to Sir Billy. 12,000 people, it's been exposed by shelter, are waiting for council housing in Blackpool. This is a damning indictment on the legacy of previous 14 years of the government. Hundreds of families in my constituency are waiting for housing, stuck in bed and breakfast, or like my constituent Casey, who's sofa surfing with her 2 children in tow. So will the Prime Minister, alongside the Deputy Prime Minister, commit to a new generation of social housing and council housing in my constituency and help me build a better Blackpool?
Well, can I join him on his comments about Billy Boston? I think the whole House will, Mr. Speaker. We are turning the tide on the housing crisis with the biggest investment in social and affordable housing in a generation, Mr. Speaker. The Chancellor investing £39 billion over the next 10 years, almost double what we saw under the last government. And no wonder the National Housing Federation welcomed this as transformative, saying it offers real hope to the thousands who need safe, secure and affordable homes.
Sarah Bull.
It is National Diabetes Week, and as someone living with type 1, as we both are, Mr. Speaker, we are more than aware of the serious complications of diabetic ketoacidosis, KDA, which, if not caught early enough, could prove fatal. Now, 1/4 of children are diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when in KDA, and that could be avoided with early diagnosis. So will the Prime Minister commit to rolling out a national, universal screening programme, as seen in Italy, for type 1.
Can I thank her for championing this really important issue? My late mother had diabetes, and so I know firsthand just what a struggle it can be and how important it is. Type 1 diabetes is not preventable, as she knows, but the sooner we can reach people, the sooner we can care for them. And we have a screening programme in the UK available to families across the country, and over 20,000 children have already taken part. It is really important that we continue to deliver that, but can I thank her for continuing to champion this and to raise her voice on this very important issue.
Durham Pappy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is crystal clear how social media and smartphones are harming our young people, with cyberbullying, addiction and exploitation absolutely rife. Governments elsewhere are taking bold action. I understand ministers are considering a 2-hour limit, but that's per app rather than per day. I know the Prime Minister takes this seriously, so can he update the House on what he wants to see happen and what action this government will take to protect our children?
It is important that we take action to protect our children, and from July, Mr. Speaker, tough new rules will mean platforms must protect children in the UK from seeing harmful and violent content. We do need to look at other measures needed to create safer online experiences for young people, and we won't hesitate to take further steps.
Speaker, concerning these statistics showed that delays for cancer treatment in North Norfolk are greater than the national average. Much of this relates to the struggles that we face specifically as an older rural constituency. I was elected on a promise to get our NHS back and fighting fit after the criminal damage inflicted on it by the Conservatives. Would the Prime Minister recognise that rural health services face acute and specific challenges? And can he give his word to the people of North Norfolk that the reforms and spending we need will come forward to address this?
Can I thank him for raising this really important issue for his constituents? I think it does impact rural areas in particular. We've set out record funding for the NHS. We have our cancer plan, and I can give him that reassurance.
This is the final question, John Erie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister and members across this House would have witnessed this spectacular victory for Davy Russell in Scottish. Hamilton, Larkhall and Stonehouse by-election. My constituents are sick of SNP failure, and they voted for change for their NHS, their schools and for Scotland. So can I ask the Prime Minister, has he seen the calls from within the SNP for John Swinney to resign? And does he agree with me that a leader who has only ever lost elections to the Labour Party should stay put?
What kind of a question is this? The final question has to be a jibe at the SNP, for crying out loud.
Well, can I pay tribute to her for the role that she and others played in seeing Davy Russell elected? He will be a dedicated champion for her constituents. And after nearly 2 decades in power, the SNP got their verdict last Thursday. Scotland wants change, and they know the SNP are completely out of ideas. That's why they want a Labour government to deliver real change.
Right, that completes Prime Minister's questions. We now come. I call the Chancellor of the Exchequer to make a statement. Rachel Reeves.
All right, guys, just quickly on the PMQs. Nothing really. It was okay. I thought Kemi was all right. Some of the questions were good. Anyways, guys, so this is the spending review here. So if you're not interested in the spending review, thank you guys for coming along. But if you're sticking with me, much appreciated. But yes, we will be listening to the spending review now, guys. So just for reference.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My driving purpose since I became Chancellor is to make working people in
You're going to hear a lot of bullshit, by the way. I'm just warning you now.
all parts of our country better off. To rebuild our schools and our hospitals. To invest in our economy so that everyone has the opportunity to succeed after 14 years of mismanagement and decline by the party opposite, culminating in a £22 billion black hole in the public finances. That was their legacy, and the first job I faced as Chancellor was to set it right. So at the budget last October, and again in the spring, I made the choices necessary to fix the foundations of our economy. And we wasted no time in removing the barriers to growth. The biggest overhaul of our planning system in a generation, launching Britain's first national wealth fund and reforming our pension system to unlock billions of pounds of investment into our economy. We are starting to see the results. The stability that we have provided has helped support 4 cuts in interest rates, saving hundreds of pounds a year for families with a mortgage. Real wages have grown by more in the first 10 months of this Labour government than they did in the first 10 years of Conservative governments. And the latest figures show that we are the fastest economy growing in the G7. With countries around the world lining up to do business with Britain again, with new trade deals with India, the United States and with the European Union too. We are renewing Britain. But I know that too many people in too many parts of our country are yet to feel it. This government's task, my task as Chancellor, and the purpose of this spending review is to change that, to ensure that renewal is felt in people's everyday lives, in their jobs and on their high streets. The priorities of this spending review are the priorities of working people, to invest in Britain's security, in Britain's health, and to grow Britain's economy so that working people are better off. Mr. Speaker, today I am allocating the envelope I set out in the spring. I am enormously grateful to my excellent team of officials at the Treasury and to my right honourable friend, the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, for his tireless work throughout this process. Crunching the numbers, looking at the assets and the liabilities. And on that note, can I thank all my Cabinet colleagues for their contribution to this process. They are all assets to this Labour government. In this spending review, total departmental budgets will grow by 2.3% a year in real terms. Compare that to the Conservative choice of austerity. In contrast to our increase of 2.3%, they cut spending by 2.9% per year in 2010. So let's be clear. Austerity was a destructive choice for the fabric of our society. And it was a destructive choice for our economy too, choking off investment and demand, creating a lost decade for growth, wages and living standards. That is their legacy. My choices are different. My choices are Labour choices. The choices in this spending review that are only possible because of my commitment to economic stability and to the decisions that this government has made. The Conservatives' fiscal rules guaranteed neither stability nor investment, and that is why I changed them. My fiscal rules are non-negotiable, and they are the foundation of stability and of investment. My first rule is for stability, that day-to-day government spending should be paid for through tax receipts. That is the sound economic choice, and it is also the fair choice, because it is not right to expect our children and future generations to pay for the services that we rely on today. This first rule allows me, as I set out in the budget last year, to allocate £190 billion more to the day-to-day running of our public services over the course of this spending review, compared to the plans of the previous government. My second fiscal rule enables me to invest in Britain's economic renewal, while getting public debt down on a downward path. The rule has allowed me to increase public investment by over £100 billion in the autumn and a further £13 billion in the spring. Investment to rebuild our transport networks, to rebuild our defence capability and to rebuild our energy security. In short, to grow our economy. Mr. Speaker, I've made my choices. Tough decisions, yes, for stability. Changing Britain's fiscal rules, yes, for investment. And today, delivering that investment for the renewal of Britain. Now it is a time for the parties opposite to make their choices. The spending plans that I am setting out today are only possible because of the decisions that I took in the autumn to raise taxes and the changes to our fiscal rules. Every one of those changes was opposed by the parties opposite. So today, they can make an honest choice, and they can oppose these spending plans, as they opposed every penny I raised to fund them. Or they can make the same choice as Liz Truss: spend more, borrow more, with no regard for the consequences. And in their clamour to cut taxes for the richest, the Conservatives crashed our economy. They sent mortgage rates spiralling and they put our pensions in peril. I will never take those risks.
That's a very good dig at the Conservatives there, I will admit.
And reform. Well, they're itching to do the same thing all over again. Now, the member for Clacton may be playing the friend of the workers now, but some of us are old enough to remember when he described the disastrous Liz Truss budget as, and I quote, the best Conservative budget since the 1980s. After damage is done, he still nods along. They have learnt nothing. And his party have been in Parliament for less than a year, and yet they have already racked up £80 billion of unfunded commitments. They are simply not serious. Mr. Speaker, every day it becomes clearer. It is Labour, and only Labour, that has a credible plan for the renewal of Britain.
There is another party, and it's called the Green Party. Keep your eye on them.
As I said in my spring statement, the world is changing before our eyes. And since the spring, the challenges that we face have become even more acute. The signs of our age of insecurity are everywhere. So we are acting on the promise in our plan to change, building renewal on foundations of national security, border security, and economic security. As the Prime Minister said earlier this month, a new era in the threats that we face demands a new era for defence and security. That's why we took the decision to prioritise our defence spending by reducing overseas development aid, so that defence spending will now rise to 2.6% of GDP by April 2027.
Wrong decision you made. Wrong. You are literally killing people around the world by this decision,
including the contribution of our intelligence agencies. That uplift provides funding for my right honourable friend, the Defence Secretary, with £11 billion increased in defence spending.
Yeah, because clearly he doesn't have enough fucking money here for his department.
And a £600 million uplift for our security and intelligence agencies. That investment will deliver not only security, but also renewal. In Aldermaston and Lincoln, in Portsmouth and Filton, on the Clyde and in Rosyth, investment in Scotland, jobs in Scotland, defence for the United Kingdom.
Grangemouth!
Opposed by the Scottish National Party, delivered by this Labour government. And as we invest in our armed forces, our military technology and our supply chains, that also brings huge opportunities. £4.5 billion of investment in munitions, made in factories from Glasgow to Glasgow, Stevenage to Radway Green, and over £6 billion to upgrade our nuclear submarine production, supporting thousands of jobs across Barrow, Derby and Sheffield. We will make Britain a defence industrial superpower, with the jobs, the skills and the pride that come with it. A more unstable world presents new challenges at our borders too, where conflict has opened the way for organised criminal gangs. The British people rightly expect us to have control of who comes into our country. The party opposite said that they would take back control. Well, Mr. Speaker, they lost control.
That is true.
With one failed policy after another. No control, no security. In contrast, in the budget last year, I announced £150 million to establish the new Border Security Command. And today, to support the integrity of our borders, I can announce that that funding will increase with up to £280 million more per year by the end of the spending review for our new Border Security Command. Alongside that, we are tackling the asylum backlog. The party opposite left behind a broken system. Billions of pounds of taxpayers' money spent on housing asylum seekers in hotels, leaving people in limbo and shunting the cost of failure onto local communities. We won't let that stand. So I can confirm today that, led by the work of my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, we will be ending the costly use of hotels to house asylum seekers in this Parliament. Funding that I have provided today, including from the Transformation Fund, will cut the asylum backlog, hear more appeal cases and return people who have no right to be here, saving the taxpayer £1 billion a year. That is my choice, Mr. Speaker. That is the Labour choice. That is the choice of the British people.
All this talk about migrants and asylum seekers and whatnot in the hotel thing. The right, while this may seem like a victory, and this is like, look, this is an appeal to the reform voters and the right wingers and those who have problems with immigration, they will just clamber to another issue to attack Labour with. They're not going to convert to Labour based on this, no matter what they do.
And Mr. Speaker, if we want national security in a dangerous world, that does not stop at the strength of our armed forces or at our border. I have long spoken about what I call securonomics, the basic insight that in an age of insecurity, government must step up to provide security for working people and resilience for our national economy. Put simply, where things are made and who makes them matters. Take energy. The Tories neglected our nuclear and renewable sectors and closed our gas storage facilities, leaving us exposed to hikes in energy prices when Russia invaded Ukraine. And it was working people who paid the price for their mistakes. On this side of the House, we understand that energy security is national security.
That's true.
And so because it is the right choice for bills, the right choice for jobs and the right choice for growth, this government is investing in the biggest rollout of nuclear power for half a century. A £30 billion commitment to our nuclear-powered future. Yesterday, my right honourable friend, the Energy Secretary, and I announced £14 billion for Sizewell C, producing the energy to power 6 million homes, supporting more than 10,000 jobs, including 1,500 apprentices, to build the nuclear workforce of tomorrow. And, Mr. Speaker, that's not all. We are investing over £2.5 billion in a new small modular reactor programme. Our preferred partner is Rolls-Royce, a great British company based in Derby. This investment is just one step towards our ambition for a full fleet of small modular reactors, as well as providing a route for private sector-led advanced modular reactor projects to be deployed across the UK. Alongside these, we are making nuclear-approved land available in Sellafield to attract private investment and create thousands more jobs. And I'd like to thank my honourable friend for Whitehaven and Workington for his work in this area. And to strengthen Britain's position at the forefront of a global race for new nuclear technologies, a cause championed by the Mayor of the East Midlands, Claire Ward, and my honourable friend, the Member for Bassett Law, and to support pioneering work taking place in West Burton in Nottinghamshire, we are investing £2.5 billion in nuclear fusion. And to back British industries, pioneering work in carbon capture and storage will take place. Last year, we announced funding for 2 sites, on Merseyside and in Teesside, where we are building the world's first commercial-scale CCUS plant. Today, I can announce support for the Acorn project in Aberdeenshire, supporting Scotland's transition from oil and gas to low-carbon technology, a challenge and an opportunity well understood by the leader of Scottish Labour, Anna Sarwar, and by my right honourable friend, the Scottish Secretary. And we are also backing the Viking project in Humberside, a cause long supported by my honourable friend, the member for Great Grimsby and Cleethorpes. And because I am determined to make sure that the energy technologies of the future are built here and owned here, and that those jobs come to Britain, with spending review decisions means that we can invest in the wholly publicly owned Great British Energy.
I will just point out, it's like one of the things they're really against net zero, the Conservatives and Reform UK, obviously. But how do you attack nuclear energy? You can't exactly attack nuclear energy. So what's going to be their arguments against nuclear energy here? Because it's not a green investment. Well, at the same time, it is energy that we are moving towards. I do wonder how they're going to attack these nuclear power plants. I suppose the only way they're going to attack them is basically by saying they cost too much money. Basically, I suppose that's what they're going to say.
Great British Energy, headquartered in Scotland. These are investments to make sure the towns and cities which powered the last industrial revolution will play their part in our next industrial revolution, to reduce our reliance on overseas oil and gas and protect working families from price shocks. A new generation of energy industries for a renewed Britain. That is my choice. That is Labour's choice. That is the choice of the British people. Economic security relies on our ability to buy, make and sell more here in Britain. In April, this government faced a choice: to let British Steel in Scunthorpe go under, or to intervene.
Grangemouth!
We heard representations from workers. Mr. Speaker, that choice was the choice not of the metal trader, but this Labour government. We heard representations from workers, trade unions and from my honourable friend, the member for Scunthorpe. My right honourable friend, the Business Secretary, and I were not prepared to tolerate a situation in which Britain's steel capacity was fatally undermined. We were not prepared to see another working-class community lose the pride, lose the prosperity, lose the dignity that industry provides. So we did intervene to save British Steel and the jobs that come with it, and I am proud of that decision. And this government will invest in Scunthorpe's long-term future and the future of steelworks across our great country, and in a vote of confidence in our homegrown steel. Heathrow Airport, where we are backing London by backing a third runway, has signed the UK Steel Charter, a multi-billion-pound airport expansion backed by Labour, built with British steel. And as we build our train and tram lines, our military hardware and our new power stations, that will mean orders for steel made in Britain. In Sheffield Forge Masters, where we are investing in nuclear-grade steel, and in Port Talbot, where this spending review confirms the £500 million grant to Tata Steel.
Very good.
A future for British-made steel, and a proud future for Britain's steel communities. Things built to last, built here in Britain. That is my choice. That is Labour's choice. That is the choice of the British people.
Well, of course, they scream and shout about Grangemouth, and rightfully so. Yeah, you do have to credit the government for saving, for doing what they did at Scunthorpe Steelworks. It really matters, and they emphasise the importance of that. And obviously, I welcome the investment for Port Talbot Steels there as well. It's very, very good. I just wish they would just do something about Grangemouth, guys. I really do.
This Labour government is backing British business. There will be more to come in the weeks ahead with our 10-year infrastructure strategy and our modern industrial strategy too. A plan drawn up in partnership with businesses and trade unions. And when I speak to business people and entrepreneurs about what they need to succeed, they say they need the chance to innovate. They need access to finance. They need a deep pool of talent. We have heard that message, and so today we are taking action. First, innovation, a great British strength. Our universities are world-leading, and we are proud of them. We want our high-tech industries in Britain today to continue to lead the world in the years to come, in car production, in aerospace, and in life sciences. So we are backing our innovators, backing our researchers, and backing our entrepreneurs, with R&D funding rising to a record high of £22 billion per year by the end of the spending review. And because homegrown AI has the potential to solve diverse and daunting challenges, as well as the opportunity for good jobs and investment here in Britain, I am announcing £2 billion to back this government's AI action plan, overseen by my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Science and Technology. And second, to champion those small businesses seeking access to finance as they look to grow, I am increasing the financial firepower of the British Business Bank, a 2/3 increase in its investments, increasing its overall financial capacity to £25.6 billion, to help pioneering businesses start up and to scale up, backing Britain's entrepreneurs, backing Britain's wealth creators. And third, as we invest, if we are to thrive in the industries of the future, we must give our young people the skills that they need to contribute to our national success, as scientists, engineers and designers, as builders, welders and electricians. I know the ambition, the drive and the potential of our young people, and it cannot be right that too often those ambitions and that potential are stifled. When young people who want training find courses are oversubscribed and are turned away at the door, forcing growing businesses eager to recruit to look elsewhere, potential wasted and enterprise frustrated. So today I am providing record investment for training and upskilling, £1.2 billion a year by the end of the spending review, to support over 1 million young people into training and apprenticeships, so that their potential, their drive and their ambition is frustrated no longer.
Good.
And on the subject of skills, Mr. Speaker, we should all recognise the Leader of the Opposition's own commitment to lifelong learning. At the weekend, she promised to learn and to get better on the job. Well, I am sure that members on the benches opposite will be supporting her in that endeavour. Good luck with that. As we build a strong and secure and resilient economy, working people must feel the benefits.
You can't help but laugh. Sometimes, guys, you just need a chuckle, guys. It's good for you.
That starts with the security of a proper home. Our planning reforms have opened up the opportunity to build. Now we must act to make the most of those opportunities. And a plan to match the scale of the housing crisis must include social housing. Neglected for too many decades, but not by this Labour government. And so, led by my right honourable friend, the Deputy Prime Minister, we are taking action. I am proud to announce the biggest cash injection into social and affordable housing in 50 years. A new affordable homes programme in which I am investing £39 billion over the next decade.
Wow.
Direct government funding to support house building, especially for social rent. And I am pleased to report that towns and cities, including Blackpool, Preston, Sheffield and Swindon, have already had plans to bring forward bids to build those homes in their communities. And I have gone further. Mr. Speaker, last autumn, I enabled greater use of financial transactions to support investment in our infrastructure, alongside strict guardrails that ensure that money is spent wisely through our public financial institutions. And so, in line with that commitment, I am providing an additional £10 billion for financial investments, including to be delivered through Homes England, to crowd in private investment and unlock hundreds of thousands more homes. Homes built by a Labour government, homes built for working people. But, Mr. Speaker, it is no good investing in new skills, new jobs and new homes if they are not properly connected. That is why last week, with the support of my right honourable friend, the Transport Secretary, I announced £15 billion of investment to connect our cities and our towns, the biggest ever investment of its kind. Investments in buses in Rochdale, train stations in Merseyside and Middlesbrough, mass transit in West Yorkshire, and metro extensions in Birmingham, in Tyne and Wear, and in Stockport. And alongside that, we are backing Doncaster Airport. Today, I am announcing a 4-year settlement for Transport for London to provide certainty and stability for our largest local transport network to plan for the future. And for other regions in the UK, I am today providing for a 4-fold increase in local transport grants by the end of this Parliament to make the improvements put off for far too long, to improve the journeys that people make every day. And to unlock the potential of all parts of Britain, we are going further, investing in major rail projects to connect our towns and cities. In October, I announced funding for the Transpennine route upgrade, the backbone of rail travel in the north, linking York and Leeds and Manchester, with a quarter of that route expected to be electrified by this summer. I know the commitment of my honourable friends, the members for Huddersfield, York Outer and Colne Valley to this issue. And today I can announce a further £3.5 billion of investment for that route. But my ambition and the ambition of people across the north is greater still. And so, in the coming weeks, I will set out this government's plan to take forward our ambitions for Northern Powerhouse Rail. I have also heard the representations of my honourable friends, the members for Milton Keynes North, Milton Keynes Central and Buckingham and Bletchley. And I can tell the House today to connect Oxford and Cambridge and to back Milton Keynes' leading tech sector, I am providing a further £2.5 billion for the continued delivery of East-West Rail. And on a matter I know is of great importance to my honourable friends, the members for Lichfield, Birmingham Northfield and Birmingham Erdington, I can announce today that I am providing funding for the Midlands Rail Hub, the region's biggest and most ambitious rail improvement scheme for generations, strengthening connections from Birmingham across the West Midlands and into Wales too.
This is all very good stuff. Much needed infrastructure upgrades.
Mr. Speaker, for 14 years, the Conservatives failed the people of Wales. Those days are over. Following representations from my right honourable friend, the Welsh Secretary, the First Minister for Wales and Welsh Labour MPs, I am pleased to announce today £445 million for railways in Wales over 10 years, including new funding for Padeswood Sidings and Cardiff West Junction. That, Mr. Speaker, is the difference made by 2 Labour governments working together to undo a generation of underfunding and neglect.
That's very good, yeah, for the Welsh people, though. But I think we saw an argument was that it's not enough money, but it's better than no investment is what I always say sometimes, guys.
This government takes seriously its commitment to investment, jobs and growth in every part of the UK. And I have heard the concerns of my honourable friends, the members for Mid Cheshire and Rosendale and Darwen, and the Mayor of Liverpool City Region, Steve Rotherham, that past governments have underinvested in towns and cities outside of London and the South East. And they are right. So I am today publishing the conclusion of the review of the Treasury's Green Book, the government's manual for assessing value for money. Our new Green Book will support place-based business cases and make sure no region has Treasury guidance wielded against them. I said we would do things differently. I said we wanted growth in all parts of Britain. And, Mr. Speaker, I meant it. Backing our nations and regions means backing our devolved governments. And this spending review provides the largest settlement in real terms since devolution was introduced, with £52 billion for Scotland, £20 billion for Northern Ireland by the end of the spending review, and £23 billion for Wales. And having heard representations from many Welsh Labour colleagues, and because I know the obligation we owe to our industrial communities, I'm providing a multi-year settlement of £118 million to keep coal tips safe in Wales. Mr. Speaker, I know the pride that people feel in their communities. I see it everywhere I go. But I also know that for too many people, there is a sense that something has been lost, as high streets have declined, as community spaces have closed, as jobs and opportunities have gone elsewhere. The renewal of Britain must be felt everywhere. Today, I'm pleased to announce additional funding to support up to 350 communities, especially those in the most deprived areas. Funding to improve parks, youth facilities, swimming pools and libraries. Supporting councils' fight back against graffiti and fly tipping, including in Blackpool South, in Stockport, in Stoke Central, in Swindon North and in Newcastle upon Tyne East and Wallsend. And there's more. Job creation and community assets are vital to our growth mission. But too often, regeneration projects are held back, gathering dust in bureaucratic limbo. We are changing that. We will establish a growth mission fund to expedite local projects that are important for growth. Projects like Southport Pier, an iconic symbol of coastal heritage which has stood empty since 2022. Kilcody's seafront and high street, where investment would create jobs and new business opportunities. And plans for Peterborough's new sports quarter to drive activity and community cohesion. Because people deserve a government which shares their ambition for their communities. To deliver renewal, to deliver growth, to deliver opportunity. And that is what you get with a Labour government. If people are to feel pride in their community, enjoy their public spaces and spend time on their high streets, they must feel safe when they do so. Safe in the knowledge that when people break the law, they feel the full force of the law. But the party opposite left our prisons overflowing and on the brink of collapse. And they left it to us to deal with the consequences. We are taking the necessary action. So with my right honourable friend, the Justice Secretary, we have announced that we are investing £7 billion to fund 14,000 new prison places and putting up to £700 million per year into reform of the probation system too. Today, I will do more. Good. I am increasing police spending power by an average 2.3% per year in real terms over the spending review period. To protect our people, our homes and our streets. That is more than £2 billion. Supporting us to meet our plan for change commitment of putting 13,000 additional police officers, PCSOs and special constables into neighbour policing roles across England and Wales. And as well as every place, I am determined that every family feels the benefits of Britain's renewal. Falling interest rates, supported by our commitment to economic stability, are already saving many families hundreds of pounds a month on their mortgage. I have accepted pay review body recommendations for pay in our armed forces, for our nurses, our teachers and our prison officers, giving public sector workers the fair pay rises that they deserve. And in autumn, I increased the national living wage, a pay rise for around 3 million hard-working people. And this government is doing more. We're banning exploitative zero-hour contracts. We're strengthening statutory sick pay and ending the injustice of unscrupulous fire and rehire practices. Those are my choices. Those are Labour choices. Mr. Speaker, I know that for many people, the cost of living remains a constant challenge, which is why we are capping the cost of school uniforms. And I can tell the House today that I am extending the £3 bus fare cap until at least March 2027. Earlier this week, we announced that over 3/4 of pensioners will receive the winter fuel payment this year. And there is more. To get bills down, not just this winter, but in winters to come, we have expanded the Warm Homes Plan to support thousands more of the UK's poorest households, including providing £7 million to homes in Bradford, £11 million to homes in Rugby, and £30 million to homes in Blackpool. And today I can announce that I will deliver in full our manifesto commitment to upgrade millions of homes, saving families and pensioners across the country up to £600 each and every year off their bills. I am determined to do everything in my power to put more money in people's pockets, to give people security and control in their lives, to make working people better off, and to show them that this government, this Labour government, is on their side. Mr. Speaker, taxpayers work hard for their money, and they expect their government to spend their money with care. So for the first time in 18 years, this government has run a zero-based review, a line-by-line assessment of what government spends, something that the Tories didn't bother to do in 14 years. And as a result of that work, and of our wider drive for efficiencies, led by my right honourable friend, the Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster, in this spending review I have found savings. From the closure and sale of government buildings and land, cutting back office costs and reducing consultancy spend, all which the previous government failed to do. Reforms that will make public services more efficient, more productive and more focused on the user. I have been relentless in driving out inefficiencies. I will be relentless in cutting out waste, with every single penny reinvested back into our public services. Mr. Speaker, I joined the Labour Party almost 30 years ago because I knew that the Conservative Party, when I grew up, didn't care much about schools like mine or the kids I grew up with. I joined because I believe that every young person should have the equal chance to succeed, no matter where they come from, no matter what their parents do. I believe that just as strongly today as I did then. That is why at the budget last autumn, I ended the tax loophole which exempted private schools from VAT and business rates. And I put that money where it belongs, into helping the 93% of children in our state schools.
Well said.
Mr. Speaker, they oppose money for their local state schools, and I will always prioritise them. That was my choice. That is the Labour choice. And because of the decisions that we made in this spending review, and working with my right honourable friend, the Education Secretary, last week this government announced that free school meals will be extended to over 500,000 more children.
Still not guaranteed to every single child. Let's be absolutely clear, including guarantees of free meals a day for every single child. Let's be clear about that. Again, it's an improvement, but it doesn't change the fact that there are still children going hungry.
That policy alone will lift 100,000 children out of poverty. Children in schools from
Puts food in their belly, doesn't put money in the parents' pockets. That's a big difference.
Our hamlets to Sunderland and from Swansea to Bridgend. Last year at Labour Party conference, I was proud to announce the first steps in our plan to deliver breakfast clubs for every child, with an initial rollout to the first 750 schools. And we will continue with that national rollout as part of our manifesto commitment, so that no child goes hungry and every child can have the best chance to thrive and succeed. Yeah. And because I know that a good start in life does not just start at school, I can also announce £370 million for school-based nurseries, to put us firmly on track to meet our plan for change commitment, for a record number of children being school-ready, and for children's social care, to break the dangerous cycle of late intervention and low-quality care. I am providing £555 million of transformation funding over the spending review period, so that children do not go needlessly into care when they could stay at home. Yeah. and for children where state intervention is necessary, better care and better outcomes. And last week, I was pleased to announce, with my right honourable friend, the Culture Secretary, that more than £130 million from the Dormant Assets Scheme with the financial services sector will be allocated to fund facilities for our young people, to give every child the chance to take part in music, sport and in drama, to fund libraries in our schools, so that the confidence and the opportunity that those resources open up are no longer the preserve of the privileged few. Those are my choices. They are Labour choices, and they are the choices of the British people. Overall, I am providing a cash uplift of over £4.5 billion a year for additional funding in the core schools budget by the end of the spending review, backing our teachers and backing our kids. Mr. Speaker, people who went to ordinary comprehensives in the 80s and 90s are all too familiar with the experience of being taught in temporary classrooms. And the previous Conservative government oversaw another generation of kids herded into cold and damp buildings as school roofs literally crumbled.
This is a fact.
It wasn't acceptable when I was at school, and it isn't acceptable now. So I am providing investment rising to nearly £2.3 billion per year to fix our crumbling classrooms. In addition, £2.4 billion per year to continue our programme to rebuild 500 schools, including Chase Community School in Enfield, Woodkirk Academy in Leeds and Budmouth Academy in Weymouth, investing in our young people, investing in Britain's future, investing in opportunity for all. That is Labour's choice.
I welcome the improved investment, especially in crumbling schools. Obviously, like I said, the barrier is obviously getting that money to them now, the sooner rather the better. And I think we spoke about this at the budget as well. Like, again, I welcome this funding, but it's just how quickly are we getting it? Because my concern is that the work has not started yet on a lot of these schools when it comes to fixing these foundations that are the broken schools. I always welcome for more in education, but I want to actually see the work being. When is the work actually going to get done to fix these schools? Like, the investment is there, which I welcome, and we all welcome it, but when is that work going to start is what I want to know.
Finally, Mr. Speaker, let me turn to the. I knew the chair. Let me turn to our National Health Service. It's our most treasured public service. And people rightly expect an NHS that is there when they need it. An ambulance that comes when they call one. A GP appointment available when they need one. A scan that is performed when they are referred for one. I am hugely grateful to our nurses, our doctors, our paramedics and other healthcare professionals for everything that they do. If we want a strong economy where working people can fulfil their potential, then we must have a strong NHS. Not as the Reform Party have called for, an insurance-based system. We believe in a publicly funded National Health Service free at the point of use.
Well said.
Now, perhaps the member for Clacton should spend some more time focusing on the priorities of the British people and less time in the Westminster Arms. Although, Mr. Speaker, after this week, perhaps the Two Chairman pub might be a better fit. At the budget, I took the decisions necessary to provide an immediate injection of funding to get the NHS back on its feet. And I commend my right honourable friend, the Health Secretary, for all the progress that he has already made.
I have my reservations about West Streeting, but he is getting things done in the NHS. But I don't trust West Streeting for one bit, and neither I know you guys don't either. But things are getting done in the NHS.
In a year, this government has recruited 1,700 new GPs, delivered 3.5 million extra appointments, and cut waiting lists by more than 200,000. Fixing our NHS also means delivering fundamental reform across social care. which means that we are backing the first ever fair pay agreement for that sector. And I am increasing the NHS technology budget by almost 50%. And we are investing £10 billion to bring our analogue health system into the digital age, including through the NHS app, so patients can manage their prescriptions, get their test results and book appointments all in one place. We are shifting care back to the community, providing more funding to support the training of thousands more GPs to deliver millions more appointments. We are investing more in prevention to meet our manifesto commitment of providing mental health support teams in all schools in England by the end of this Parliament. These investments will enable the delivery of our upcoming 10-year plan for health and put the NHS firmly back on the path to renewal. And to support that plan, to back the doctors and nurses that we rely on, and to make sure that the NHS is there whenever we need it, I am proud to announce today that this Labour government is making a record cash investment in our National Health Service, increasing real terms day-to-day spending by 3% per year for every single year of this spending review.
Wow, that's big.
An extra £29 billion per year for the day-to-day running of our health service. Mr. Speaker, that is what the British people voted for, and that is what we will deliver.
That's good.
More appointments, more doctors, more scanners, the National Health Service, created by a Labour government, protected by a Labour government, and renewed by this Labour government. Mr. Speaker, this is a spending review to deliver the priorities of the British people. Security, a strong Britain in a changing world. Economic growth, powered by investment and opportunity in every part of Britain. And our nation's health, with an NHS fit for the future. I have made my choices. In place of chaos, I choose stability. In place of decline, I choose investments. In place of pessimism, division and defeatism, I choose national renewal. These are my choices, Mr. Speaker. These are Labour choices. These are the choices of the British people, and I commend this statement to the House.
Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride.
So before we hear Mel Stride do his waffle, we're going to hear from Mel Stride, and I want to hear from Daisy Cooper from the Lib Dems, and then that will be it, guys. Let me just give my initial thoughts before we hear from Mel Stride with his ruffle. This is really a lot. Again, like, it's all well and good with investment, but we actually want to see the change. An extra £29 billion per year to our NHS, 3% per year is very good. We just want to see the numbers come down, and like I said, I want to see at the end of the year. I want to see it. I want people to say that they feel better off when it comes to our national healthcare service. So again, like, record investment, all sounds good on paper, but how it's distributed, how it actually takes effect is obviously over time. We want to see that it's actually making people's lives better on that. I really, really like the investment that she was talking about in terms of rail. I really, really wish they would do something about the fares. I really wish they would do something about the rail fares across, not just across England, but across the whole of the UK. I really wish they could do something about the rail fares. I honestly think you would get far more people onto the transport if you do something about the rail fares. Like, freeze something there. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm all in for all the investment that they're talking about in the rail infrastructures in Wales and in many parts of England. I'm all for that, but damn, oh damn, can we just do something about the fares, please? Because we are still getting increasing in fares, and it's just mind-boggling in comparison to the rest of Europe there. Like I said about the nuclear investment, I've had reservations about nuclear investment, but I also see it as well as if there's not a guaranteed. If the guarantee is not there for solar and wind, they need other opportunities, and that's where nuclear power is to come in. And we need to stop relying on oil and gas. We need to move away from that industry before the likes of Reform and the Conservatives make things worse for us. She's also promising that hotels, asylums accommodation in hotels will end by the end of this Parliament. Well, where are they going to be then? Where are we putting asylum seekers if we're not putting them in hotels? This is the question that I think is really raising an eyebrow here. And this will not stop the likes of those on the far right, the likes of Reform, the likes of those who have reservations about and complaints about immigration. This will not stop them attacking the Labour government. It will still find ways to attack them on that. Also, welcome the bus fare cap, which has been extended as well. I kind of wish they kept it at the cap it was before, but you can't. At least it's been capped for a bit longer, which is good. A 2.3% increase in police. That's £7 billion worth of investment in prison places. I welcome that as well. But again, like, I know our prison capacity is full, but the problem is it takes time to build prisons. That's the frustration thing there. And a lot of communities and a lot of places don't want prisons built where they are, understandably so, on that as well. The Warm Homes Plan, a lot of investment in education as well. Investment in the local community stuff there that you mentioned there. It didn't sound like a lot, but I do think it was some good stuff there. Thank you for the £2 super chat, Alistair Key. I really appreciate that. Thanks for doing this. You all need to look into things. Yeah, more details will come out over time. There'll be breakdown analysis of it, but just those are my initial thoughts, but we'll talk a bit more about it later. But let's hear from Mel Stride, and then I'm going to hear from one or two, and then from Daisy Cooper, and then we'll wrap up there, guys. But if you guys want to continue stick with me for a little bit longer, you're welcome to. But if you guys have to head out, it's totally good as well. Thank you so much for that £2 super chat, Alistair. I really appreciate it. All right, let's hear Mel Stride rant about it.
Mr. Speaker, this spending review is not worth the paper that it is written on. Because the Chancellor has completely lost control. This is the spend now, tax later review. Because the Right Honourable Lady knows she will need to come back here in the autumn with yet more taxes. And a cruel summer of speculation awaits. How can we possibly take this Chancellor seriously after the chaos of the last 12 months? We were assured, Mr. Speaker, we were assured at the election that Labour's plans involved barely any additional spending or borrowing. Now, the Chancellor parades her largesse. Hundreds of billions in additional spending over this Parliament. The initial profile for that spending was, of course, significantly front-loaded, but the Chancellor now expects us to believe that she will let spending rise by only 1.2% a year. There is no chance whatsoever of that happening. For the lesson of the last year has been that when the going gets tough, the Right Honourable Lady blinks. She presented herself as the Iron Chancellor, but what we have seen is the tin foil Chancellor.
The Iron Chancellor? What? Like, I'm sorry, are you trying to make comparisons with Margaret Thatcher? What? Listen, I have my reservations about Labour, as you guys know, but come on now, this is just pathetic.
Flimsy and ready to fold in the face of the slightest pressure. She said she would not fiddle her fiscal rules, then she did. She said she wouldn't make any unfunded commitments, but with the humiliation of the winter fuel U-turn, she just has. She looked business leaders in the eye and said no more taxes. But we all know what happened next, and we all know what is coming in the autumn. Her own backbenchers, her cabinet colleagues, Labour's trade union paymasters, even the Prime Minister himself.
Oh, God.
They have all seen that she is weak, weak, weak. And they can smell the blood. They will be back for more, Mr. Speaker, and they will get it. These spending plans are a fantasy. And it's not the truth, Mr. Speaker, that the Chancellor has to maintain this fiction because she has left herself no room for manoeuvre. She is constantly teetering on the edge of blowing her fiscal rules. which she already changed to allow even more borrowing. And the only way she can claim to be meeting her rules is by pretending that she can control spending over the coming years. But, Mr. Speaker, let's look at the record so far. Borrowing in the last financial year came out $11 billion above even the OBR's March forecast, and 70% higher than the plans that she inherited from this side of the House.
Tax up, borrowing up.
But for someone so keen on borrowing, Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor seems strangely reticent to even use the word. Indeed, ministers bizarrely tell us that it is Labour's fiscal rules themselves that have, quote, generated investment. The reality is a little more straightforward. They have loosened the fiscal rules so they can borrow more. Borrow and borrow and borrow, allowing the national debt to continue to rise higher every single year, while ministers pretend that it is not. An eye-watering £200 billion of additional borrowing in this Parliament compared to the plans set out in the last Conservative budget, with £80 billion more to be spent on debt interest alone. In fact, if she had retained our fiscal rules, as she said, they may laugh, Mr. Speaker. If she had retained our fiscal rules, as she said she would before the election, the OBR have confirmed that she would be breaking them right now. Mr. Speaker, our country is now vulnerable to even the smallest changes in the bond markets. Should we face a sudden external shock, we have no fiscal firepower left with which to respond, all thanks to the Right Honourable Lady's choices. So can I ask the Chancellor, will she be open about what she has done? Will she admit that she has made a conscious choice to borrow more and to accept higher debts? Does she accept this means interest rates and mortgages will be higher than they would otherwise have been, as the OBR themselves have said? And given she continues to claim that she has brought stability to the public finances, can I ask her what on earth her definition of stability is? And, Mr. Speaker, the Chancellor must be delighted that she does not have to face a new OBR forecast today. Because if she did, she would have to set out how she will fund her humiliating U-turn on winter fuel payments, having already blown the savings on buying off her trade union paymasters last year.
This is desperate.
She said this week there was, and I quote, she said, still work to do to ensure that the sums add up. Hardly reassuring from the person in charge of the nation's finances, Mr. Speaker. You don't need to have worked at the Bank of England for a decade to know that that pitiful utterance is unlikely to soothe the markets. So can the Chancellor confirm categorically that there will be no additional borrowing to pay for this chaotic reversal? And if this is the case, can she explain how on earth it can be paid for without raising taxes? And can the Right Honourable Lady explain why last summer, apparently to avoid a run on the pound, Mr. Speaker, this measure was so urgent that pensioners had to be left in the cold over the last winter? What exactly has changed? Because it certainly hasn't been made possible by an improvement in the economy or the public finances, which the IFS said this week are both in a worse state now than when Labour came into office. And if we had an OBR forecast, we might also get some answers on how the government intends to find £3.5 billion to abolish the two-child benefit cap, which we are led to believe is imminent. Another addition to the ballooning welfare bill, another expensive surrender to the Labour left. And we would certainly get the OBR's assessment of the economic outlook following the tariffs. Changes the Right Honourable Lady knew full well were coming. Meanwhile, her deluge of taxes and regulations has left business confidence at record lows, costing people their livelihoods. Only yesterday, Mr. Speaker, we saw the latest evidence of that. Figures for last month show the number of people on payrolls fell by more than 100,000 after already falling by 55,000 in April. Unemployment is up by more than 10% since Labour came to office. The Right Honourable Lady may trumpet extra spending today, but is not the simple truth that she has trashed the economy and left no contingency in the face of a highly volatile global outlook. It's not the reality, Mr. Speaker, that the Chancellor knows she will have to come back in the autumn with more tax rises to fund these plans? Or can she assure us right now that this is not the case? Yes or no? We know that the Deputy Prime Minister has helpfully provided her with an entire brochure of tax rises that she will no doubt be perusing over the summer. The Corbynist catalogue, Mr. Speaker.
What?
And can the Chancellor confirm, as promised, can she confirm as promised that the income tax thresholds will not be frozen at the budget, a move she herself said would hurt working people? And Mr. Speaker, what about the uncertainties in the departmental spending plan she has just set out today? Can she assure us that these plans will not be topped up, that no backroom deals have been cut with disgruntled cabinet ministers? Can she assure us that the capital allocations announced today will actually be spent on capital, not diverted in year, as she has in the past, to day-to-day budgets to play more games with her fiscal rules? The Chancellor has had to impose a settlement on the Home Secretary because this spending review won't deliver for our hard-working police officers across the country. Instead, the Home Office budget gets squandered on asylum costs because this government simply doesn't have a plan on illegal migration. And as the Defence Secretary admitted, and I quote, the government has lost control of our borders. Small boat crossings, Mr. Speaker, are up 42% on the same point last year. On energy, at a time when businesses up and down the country are struggling with high energy costs, the Chancellor has chosen today to fund the Energy Secretary's vanity projects like GB Energy.
Where is he?
And while we welcome the announcements on expanding nuclear capacity, the scale of ambition is a downgrade on the commitments made previously.
What? Listen, guys, I have to keep stressing this. Like I know how you feel about Labour, but my fucking God, does this guy talk a lot of horse shit here? He's saying that Conservatives invested more on energy than Labour did.
On this side of the House.
Jesus Christ.
Mr. Speaker, the party opposite barely mentioned farming in their manifesto.
That's true.
And now we know why. It's not enough to have hit the farmers in our country with a family farm tax. Today, what we see in black and white is a choice to make further cuts to the vital grants on which many farmers rely. A huge betrayal of our farming communities, and something which many of her MPs in rural areas will have to go back to their constituencies later this week to explain. And on defence, we will always welcome any additional investment in our armed forces and capability.
Say that really, really quietly. Saying that really, really quietly. Really, really quietly there. You noticed that?
Though I note, Madam Deputy Speaker, nothing was said about when 3% will be achieved.
No squeak.
All we heard was that in the intelligence service spending was to be included in defence spending to flatter the numbers. We left the party opposite a fully funded plan, which they didn't over for a year. But now, what we get is the Chancellor's own black hole on defence spending, the lack of a timeline on when we will achieve the 3%. Instead, we get a £30 billion bill for the Chagos surrender. Money which should go to our brave armed forces, rather than is being reported funding lower taxation in Mauritius. The first tax cuts for which this Chancellor has ever been responsible are in Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, we would have made different choices. We would not have killed growth with huge tax rises and new regulations. We would not have talked down our economy and the great businesses up and down our country. We would be focusing on efficiency and productivity in the public sector and not handing out pay rises with no strings attached. And we would be getting a grip on welfare. Labour cancelled our plans for fundamental reform to health and disability benefits that would have seen 450,000 fewer people on long-term sickness benefits. That is a disgrace. And instead of proper reforms to PIP, their own plans are a rushed cost-cutting exercise. So rushed they even had to change them after they had announced them. And their own backbenchers are in full revolt.
That is true. The situation around the PIPs and that is something that they need to change on.
Yet again, they talk tough, but there is no substance. The Right Honourable Lady has no grip. She has no clue. The markets and the public see a Chancellor completely out of her depth. Having blown her headroom and more from her budget in the autumn, she was forced into an emergency budget in March to scrabble around to try and repair the damage. Today she comes before us again with yet another fantastical tale that she knows will have completely fallen apart come the autumn. So we are not left with stronger foundations, as the Right Honourable Lady would have us believe, but rather another dose of that hallmark for which her actions have made her so renowned: uncertainty and failure. And so there she sits, Mr. Speaker, powerless to resist her disillusioned MPs and her panicking Prime Minister, like a cork on the tide. The drumbeat for U-turns pounding in her ears. Yet her tone today suggests that all is well. The sunlit uplands await. What a hopeless conceit, a masterclass in delusion. Inflation is up, unemployment is up, growth is marked down, business and households are hurting, investors are fleeing in their droves. The bond market vigilantes circle. And here we have the Chancellor, who refuses to listen. Not only tinfoil, but tin-eared too. And let me be clear, Mr. Speaker, it is working people and businesses who will pay the price come the autumn, with yet more taxes to pay for her weakness and her failures. Mr. Speaker, we cannot afford this spending review. And for many, the growing conclusion is that we cannot afford this Chancellor.
That's got to be one of the worst. I think I've heard Mel Stride before, but this is probably even worse than his rant at the budget. Like, this was much worse. Like, I'm sorry, like, it was just tiny little bits where it's like, yeah, but we do welcome this little bit, but we still hate them. But this little thing we do welcome, but it was absolutely awful for Mel Stride. Really, really was. Oh, this is going to be funny.
I will address the Shadow Chancellor's specific points in a moment, but I want to start by acknowledging the progress he has made. After all, Madam Deputy Speaker, it's been quite a week for him. Last Thursday, he gave a speech saying it will take time for his party to win back trust on the economy. And today he showed us how far he and his party have to go to achieve that. Now, I want to give him some credit for last week's analysis. He said that the Conservative Party was seen to have failed. He's right. He said that the last Conservative government put at risk the very stability which Conservatives had always said must be carefully protected. Madam Deputy Speaker, I agree with him. And he said that on his party's...
Chancellor, I need to be able to hear, and I'm sure our constituents would also want to hear. Chancellor.
He said that the credibility of the UK's economic framework was undermined by spending billions with no proper plan for how it would be paid for. Mr. Speaker, I couldn't have put it better myself. Now, the Shadow Chancellor could have gone a lot further. For example, Madam Deputy Speaker, he couldn't even bring himself to mention Liz Truss by name. Stride by name, baby steps by nature. But at least he's made a start.
That's a good one. That's very good. Oh, Jesus.
He also spoke about, and I quote, the death of what we might call the age of thoughtfulness. And speaking of the death of thoughtfulness, let me now turn to his response to the spending review.
Oh, dear.
Now, the Shadow Chancellor welcomed our nuclear investment of £30 billion. But he said it's not enough. He welcomed our defence investment of £11 billion. But he said it was not enough. He and his party opposed the decisions that this government has taken to make those announcements possible by voting against the budget in October last year. Madam Deputy Speaker, you can't spend the money if you won't raise the money.
Yep.
Now that's a lesson from Liz Truss that he has already forgotten. He complained about the level of investment that I've announced, ignoring the fact that the reason this investment is so important is because his party oversaw 14 years of cratering investment, stagnating wages and public service collapse. So let me remind him of what I said, Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Tories' fiscal rules guaranteed neither stability nor investment, and that is why I changed them, so that we can get stability and we can get investment. All their fiscal rules enabled was them to crash the economy, and the working people of Britain will never forgive them for doing that. So the party opposite set themselves against investment in the renewal of Britain. They set themselves against NHS investment, free school meals, investment in skills, investment in carbon capture and storage, investment in transport in our towns and in our cities, investment in everything that we've set out today. And yet the British people voted for them. And the honourable gentleman says, the right honourable gentleman says that the Home Office budget involves an increase in asylum costs. It doesn't. Asylum costs are coming down under this Labour government because we are deporting more people and getting them out of hotels.
No, that's on top of scrapping the pathetic Rwanda scheme as well, guys.
He says that we're cutting police spending, we're increasing it by 2.3% in real terms a year. And, Madam Deputy Speaker, we've had no apology. No apology for the damage that they did to our economy or to our public services. In the last 11 months, interest rates have been cut 4 times. GDP was the fastest growing of all G7 economies in the first quarter of this year. Business confidence is rising. 500,000 more people are in work. Record investment has been made in Britain. Real wages have increased more in 10 months than they did in 10 years of the Conservative government. The national living wage has increased, giving 3 million working people a pay rise. And we've done all of this without increasing taxes on working people. Those are the choices that we have made. That is the difference that we are making. And in the spending review today, we set out the spending that we announced in the budget last year and in the spring statement. Not a penny more, not a penny less. I said in the budget and in the spring statement that public services must now live within the means that we have set, and we have achieved that. There will be a budget later this year, and in that budget we will set out in the round all of the fiscal plans. But we have already drawn a line under the Tory mismanagement with tax rises last year, and we will never have to repeat a budget like that again, because we will never have to clean up after the mess that the party opposite made again. Now, the reason that this Labour government has spent its first year fixing the foundations of our economy and stabilising our public finances is because it is what we had to do. The government of which the Shadow Chancellor was a part of left an unenviable legacy, which is why his party is, in his own words, in a difficult place. Now, we've made our choices. Removing barriers to growth, barriers untouched by the party when they were in office for 14 years. Strengthening Britain's security, the biggest real terms increase in defence spending since the end of the Cold War, something that they did not do when they had 14 years in office. Bringing our health service in the 21st century after neglect by the party opposite in their 15 years in office. Investing in Britain's renewal to repair the damage done by the party opposite in their 14 years in office. And Madam Deputy Speaker, in stark contrast to the Conservatives' 14 years of chaos, waste and decline, we are delivering on the priorities of the British people.
Chair of the Select Committee, Dame Meg Hillier.
Just before, I'm going to scroll ahead to because I want to hear from Daisy Cooper, and because I don't want to hear from all the MPs because it's going to take forever. I just want to hear from her, and I want to hear the response from the Chancellor, and then we will be done. We'll be done live streaming here. So I'm just going to skip forward just a little bit here, guys.
It's going to have its biggest ever increase, and we've set that budget for 10 years to give certainty to the.
Madam Deputy Speaker, it's been almost a year since Labour swept to power with the promise of change, but we are still not seeing the scale of ambition needed to turn the country around. We welcome the announcement of investment in the NHS, but on its own, it won't work unless the government invests in social care too. We welcome the investment in infrastructure, but on its own, it won't work unless the government invests in skilling up the workforce we need to build it.
I need to address that straight on. She literally said that she was going, if she was paying attention, she would have heard that she's literally investing in apprenticeships and training. She literally said that in the spending review. Like, that's a bit silly there. I'm sorry.
And cutting billions from departmental budgets in real terms seems unnecessary when the government could instead go for growth and get a much deeper trading relationship with Europe.
That's true.
A move which could raise an extra £25 billion per year for the public purse. For as long as the government fails to truly tackle the red tape and trading barriers blocking British businesses, the government's grip on economic growth is more akin to a handbrake than an accelerator. Madam Deputy Speaker, the last Conservative government left our NHS on its knees.
Who was in coalition with them for the first 5 years between 2010 and 2015, guys? Who was it? Oh, there was another party that was working alongside the Conservatives for the first 5 years that were under austerity. It was a yellow party. I think they were a Liberal party. I can't quite put my finger on it. It's almost as if they're the ones talking to us right now.
Their watch, waiting lists were soaring, hospitals were crumbling, and our high street healthcare was hollowed out.
I'm gonna speed it up a little bit as well, guys, because I do want to start wrapping things up because we are heading towards 2 o'clock here. So I'm gonna speed up. Hopefully you guys can still hear it. I've speeded it up to 1.25, so hopefully you guys will still be able to hear her. I'll put on subtitles just in case as well.
Can the Chancellor confirm that this funding will deliver the extra 8,000 GPs that are needed to guarantee everyone an appointment within 7 days or 24 hours if urgent? Can the Chancellor confirm that this funding will bring dentists back into the NHS and put an end to dental deserts? Can the Chancellor promise that this funding will mean that every cancer patient starts treatment within 62 days? And will she promise that the government will meet the Prime Minister's own pledge that 92% of routine operations will take place within 18 weeks? Will the Chancellor and the Health Secretary, sitting side by side, set up a crumbling hospitals task force to look at creative funding ideas, to bring construction dates forward and put an end to the vicious cycle that we saw under the previous government, and false economies of delayed rebuilds leading to rising repair costs? And then, of course, Madam Deputy Speaker, there is the elephant in the NHS waiting room, the crisis in our social care services. The Chancellor knows. The Health and Social Care Secretary knows. This whole Parliament knows that today's investment in the NHS will be like pouring water into a leaky bucket if hospitals cannot discharge patients who are well enough to leave because there aren't the care workers to help them recover at home.
Absolutely right.
This fair pay agreement that the Chancellor talks about, of course, is welcome, but it is barely a baby step, and it is nowhere near enough to bring back social care from the brink. At a bare minimum, we need a higher minimum wage for our care workers to stop the sector hemorrhaging care workers to other sectors. So when will the Chancellor finally recognise that we will never fix the NHS if we don't fix social care too? And will the government finally act with urgency and commit to concluding the social care review by the end of this year, not in 3 years' time? On housing, we warmly welcome the government's investment in social homes. Will the government now commit to the Liberal Democrats' target of building 150,000 social homes every single year? Madam Deputy Speaker, other public services are crying out for investment too. Our communities need proper neighbourhood policing to feel safe. Our farmers need fair support payments to keep food on our tables. And people of all ages deserve access to training and skills to build their future and to help power our economy forward. That's why it's so disappointing that the Chancellor has today made things so difficult for some of our public services, cutting unprotected budgets by billions. Yes, we know she was faced with the fallout from the most reckless and the most out-of-touch Conservative government in recent memory. But being responsible is not just about taking tough decisions. It's about having the moral courage to make the right ones. Yet this government seems determined not to adopt the one policy that could put rocket boosters on our economy and raise billions for our public services, a proper trade deal with Europe. A new bespoke customs union with the EU could boost our GDP by more than 2.2%, securing additional revenue to the tune of £25 billion a year, a huge boost to businesses and to our struggling public services too. If the Chancellor can U-turn on the winter fuel payment, thanks to a skinny EU trade pact worth just 0.2% in extra GDP, just imagine how many more U-turns she could perform with a proper trade deal worth 10 times as much. Madam Deputy Speaker, we Liberal Democrats strongly support the allocation of 2.5% of GDP on defence, but we want to see ministers go further and faster to bolster our national security in today's uncertain world. Will the Chancellor agree to cross-party talks in which we can work together to set a pathway to 3% of GDP well ahead of 2034? Will the government use some of today's investment to reverse the Conservatives' irresponsible 10,000 troop cut? And will the Chancellor make sure that investing in our national security becomes a lever for economic growth, putting a much greater emphasis on British steel producers and SMEs as we scale up our defences? And will the Chancellor ensure that British start-ups can use defence innovation for the public good? Before I conclude, Madam Deputy Speaker, I must thank the Chancellor for finally completing the world's slowest U-turn on the unfair winter fuel payment cut. Now that the Chancellor has U-turned, will she do the right thing and backdate the payment for all those who lost out on support this past winter, but who would now be eligible under the new rules? And now the Chancellor has U-turned once, will she make it a hat-trick and also change course on PIP and carers allowance cuts as well? Perhaps the Chancellor might even look again at the growth-crushing jobs tax and other changes affecting our high streets, small businesses and family businesses, and instead look at the fairer ways of raising revenue that we Liberal Democrats have set out time and time again, raising the same amount of revenue from the big banks, the social media giants and the online gambling companies to start paying their fair share of tax. Madam Deputy Speaker, after years of chaos and incompetence under the last Conservative government, this was a unique opportunity to draw a line under the social care crisis, squeezed budgets and sluggish economic growth. So I strongly urge the Chancellor, will she ignore those who talk down Britain's economic potential? Will she rip up the red tape holding British businesses back? And will she strike a properly ambitious trade deal with Europe that will turbocharge our economy and bring in the billions to rebuild our public services? The government says its #1 mission is growth. This would be the way to deliver it.
Before I hear from the Chancellor, I have to say, like, a lot of it was kind of like the main argument point there, and she's bang on with Daisy Cooper, is the social care sector. No mention of the social care sector in there. She's absolutely right in that. But everything else is kind of like a bit like, yes, of course, well, and trade deal with the European Union may be coming, but if I'm honest, a lot of it was a bit of a waffle, I'm afraid, guys. From the Liberal Democrats. And remember, they spent 5 years in bed with the Conservatives as well. We have to remember that.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Lady for her comments. I know she hasn't had a chance to look at the figures yet, but it's not right to say that there are real terms cuts to public services. Public service spending is increasing by 2.3% a year on average over the course of the spending review. If we start on investment in the NHS and in social care, we've already delivered, as I set out in my speech, 1,500 more GPs. We've put £26 billion already in the first phase of the spending review into the NHS. I just note that compares to the £8 billion of money you said you were going to, the Liberal Democrats said they were going to put into the NHS in their manifesto. We've already put £26 billion in, and we've put more money in today in every year of this Parliament. The new hospital programme is being rolled out, and the Health Secretary met, I think, just last week with members of Parliament who are having hospital improvements in their local communities, including with many Liberal Democrat MPs. So she should be aware that we are making improvements to the fabric of our hospitals, as well as investing in technology and scanners, etc., to improve productivity in our health service. With regards to social care, we are, as the Honourable Lady knows, we are introducing the fair pay agreement in social care. That's something that the Health Secretary and my right honourable friend, the Deputy Prime Minister, are very much committed to. We've increased, as she'll know when she looks at the documents, local government spending power, so we can put more money into social care. And in addition, Louise Casey is doing her review into the future of social care. On investment in infrastructure, yes, we are going big on infrastructure. £100 billion more announced in the budget last year, another £13 billion in the spring statement, and we're backing that up with skills, as I set out in my speech and as detailed in the spending review documents. Biggest ever investment in young people's skills so that they can access the new jobs that are being created in defence, in house building, in other infrastructure too. On the issue of red tape and backing business, I mean, I just think it's a little bit ironic, Madam Deputy Speaker, when they voted against the Planning and Infrastructure Bill yesterday, that they come to the House today saying they want to do away with red tape and go for growth. Well, we want to go for growth. That's why we took that legislation through Parliament, and perhaps she'll ask her Lords to vote for growth in the other place. On trade deals, we've done a trade deal with the US, with India and with the EU. I think that the Liberal Democrats opposed the trade deal with the US, but now apparently they think that trade deals are the way to go. Well, so do we. That's why my right honourable friend, the Business and Trade Secretary's got 3 of them that are helping our automotive sector, our steel sector and our farming communities. On defence, yes, we will use defence spending to support growth. The Defence Secretary and I have been very clear about that, and as I set out in the speech, making Britain a defence industrial superpower. But I would just sort of say, gently to the Liberal Democrats and the Honourable Lady, if you want to support investment in public services, you've got to increase the tax rises to get there. And so they voted against the national insurance increase, which is what has enabled us to make the investments that I've set out today. Now, the Honourable Lady says she wants a wealth tax. Well, we changed inheritance tax. We changed inheritance tax and the Liberal Democrats voted against it. We introduced VAT on private schools. The Liberal Democrats voted against it. So either they are serious about investing in public services, in which case they need to back the tax increases, or they want to go down the route of the magic monetary party opposite, where they're just going to borrow more to pay for things. And on the winter fuel allowance, we've made our choices clear. We're going to keep the means test, but it will be paid to people with a pension less than £35,000. I think the Liberal Democrats want to make it a universal benefit again. Oh, OK, that's just the Tories. Well, they need to explain how they would pay for it. So, look, I appreciate the fact that she welcomes some of our policies, but I would just say that the job of Chancellor and the job of government is to make sure that the sums add up. And we made difficult decisions last October, but I stand by those difficult decisions, because without them, today we would not have been able to make the investments we've made in schools, in energy and in our health service. I'm proud of what we've achieved as a government. I'm proud of the investment that we're putting in today.
Okay, that's enough of it, guys. Yeah, I just wanted to hear a response to it on that. So, like I said, we will be back at 8 p.m. tonight. We'll look at some of the forecasts from analysis from people as well, and some feedback on the spending review. Overall, I think the spending review is pretty decent from the on paper, but that's my initial thoughts of it. But obviously, we need to hear from economists, from experts, and how the markets react to it over the next couple of hours and days or so, to see how they react. So on that, obviously, but from my perspective and from what I heard, I thought it sounded very, very good stuff. she's right, obviously, Daisy Cooper, about the spending, about the social care sector, obviously, on there. And Prime Minister's questions was always going to be second place to the spending review, guys. But yeah, we've gone over 2 hours and 10 minutes along here, guys. If you have stayed from the start to the end of the live stream, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. If you've been coming in and out during the broadcast, again, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I hope you found it insightful, informative in some way, shape or form with me here, and I really do appreciate you guys giving your time here on this live stream with me. Like I said, I have to get some work done before I do tonight's live stream at 8 p.m, which is in about 6 hours time or so. So I'm going to head out, guys. So again, thank you guys so much for coming along. Thank you guys for all your comments. Thank you, Alistair, for the super chat as well. Much appreciated. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you guys are doing. But I'm done for now. But join me tonight at 8 p.m. for the Snowflake Watch if you can. But if not, I'll be back again tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. for another good morning show. But until then, guys, thank you all so much for watching. And I hope to catch you all very, very soon.